guys, it's Ryan Nitzen with Cycle News. We just wrapped up our 2023 300cc two-stroke motocross shootout. We just did one of these for the off-road bikes, and now we just did this one for the motocross bikes. I'm joined today by my co-host, Jesse Ziegler. Jesse, tell him what's up.
I don't know what's up. In general, I like 300cc two-stroke motocross bikes, though.
Yeah, so we have the 2023 Beta 300 RX and the KTM 300 SX. Both of these bikes are kind of replacing the open class. So before you could build a 300 KTM two-stroke, but now this is the first year this bike has been offered to the public.
Yeah, the 300 SX from KTM is sort of a long time coming. Like, I think the people in the US that work at KTM were urging Austria to make this bike for a long time, saying we'll sell it for sure. There's so many vet riders. There's so many two-stroke aficionados that just want a badass ripping 300cc dirt bike for the motocross track. And now they finally delivered it. Plus, really good timing. They delivered it with the new throttle body injected platform to sort of showcase that new tech in an exciting new bike. And I think our comparison is cool because we're not only bringing in like the newest tech and, you know, a brand you expect to bring this, but we're also bringing sort of the wild card with older tech. Yeah,
I almost forget that this bike is brand new for this year because we rode it last summer at Redbud, which was super fun. That was our first chance to ride all the new fuel-injected two-strokes. But for this test, we actually compared it against the Beta, which is a bike that this is their only real motocross bike. I know they have a bike coming. They have a MXGP team, but the actual motocross bike is not here yet. This is Beta's motocross bike. It's a 300cc two-stroke, and the big difference here is the KTM is fuel-injected. The Beta is old-school carbureted.
Right. That's it. That's basically the big difference on paper. Putting two 300cc motocross bikes together at the track is really cool because unlike the crop of 450 or 250 four-stroke motocross bikes where we're really splitting hairs to try to pick something that's marginally better than the other one, there's big differences here between a Beta 300 two-stroke MX bike and a KTM.
Yeah, so on paper, they look very similar. Both of the wheelbases are the same. They weigh about 2 pounds difference, the KTM being about 2 pounds lighter. I'm going to attribute that to the air fork versus the spring KYBs on the Beta. The seat height, the KTM is about 0.7 inches taller than the Beta, and then as well as the ground clearance about 0.5 inch as well. So they're both very similar on paper when you look at them, but when you actually look at them off the paper, they look way different. I'd say the Beta looks really cool. It's the RX, so it's got black swing arm, all the coatings on the brakes, the master cylinders are black. It's got race graphics already stock. So I don't know, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, Beta has a great looking motorcycle. They're in a sexy brand. They have some of the best looking enduro bikes on the circuit. And this isn't a sort of like a novelty brand. This is a world championship brand. Like they are current world champions in world enduro. They bring the heat to racing whenever they do it. So for them to come out with a competitive motocross model is cool, especially because it's in that niche of, 300 cc's. On paper, really similar price, really similar. They're like $200 apart. We're talking under 10 grand, $9,300, $9,400, somewhere around there for both of them.
Yep. The KTM is MSRP $91.99. The Beta is $93.99.
Yep.
They both come with hydraulic clutch, electric start, Brembo components as brakes and clutch. So both are very evenly, they're both very even competitors.
Yeah, and you're going to get the same amount of attention at the track with both of them because they're so unique. Actually, the Beta probably pulls a few more eyeballs than the KTM does. I think every time I
brought the Beta to the track, everyone looks at it and is like, what is that, man? I've never seen it. The Italian Stallion.
Yeah, it looks cool. The fluorescent plastics on top of the red frame. It's a flashy bike. It's not for somebody trying to blend in.
The biggest differences with these two bikes are obviously the air fork and spring forks. Those are a big difference whenever you're riding one of the Austrian bikes. But then the major differences are the Beta is carbureted, the KTM is TBI, fuel injected, throttle body injected. And then along with that is the Beta is a 6-speed transmission and the KTM is a 5-speed transmission. Right,
6-speed really coming back to their enduro heritage, based on the RR platform of the 300 cc's that people are racing off-road on. The 6-speed's pretty much a necessity off-road because you want a really creepy crawly first and you want some legs in 6th gear to get across. So I'm sure it's the same bottom end with different gearing and stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine so as well. You can really feel that kind of enduro heritage when you ride this bike hard on the motocross track. They do in the spec sheet say that this is sprung stiffer for the motocross track and for motocross settings, but after riding it, it does feel a little bit softer.
Yeah, and that's really where we get into the differences that are off paper, off specs, off assumptions, and really getting into the nitty gritty of riding the bikes together. It's not like we can get these two bikes together that often, so it was really cool that we got to.
Another thing too that's cool about this test is normally, like for a big shootout you've seen in the past, we can only ride these bikes all together for maybe a couple days. These two bikes we've actually got to live with for some time. I know you've been off doing your super hard series. I've actually had both these bikes and been able to ride them back to back more than a few times. So it's been actually a experience where we get to live with these bikes and ride them back to back pretty often, which has been really fun.
You get to mix more than one tank of premix.
I have been burning a lot of premix lately.
50 to 1.
Yeah, the KTM recommended 60 to 1 for this bike. Both of these bikes, worth noting, also have two different maps. So the KTM it's controlling the power valve. The white map, which is the top one, opens the power valve 80%, and then the green map opens the power valve 100%. Where the Beta has two maps, sunny or raining, and then that is just ignition timing.
Yes, again, sunny, rainy, going back again to enduro settings where they'll have like a really mud map where it's just torquey, and essentially the same thing's happening on these maps in the Beta itself, and it's showing you exactly how powerful a power valve is from the motorcycle. Like the power valve adjustment affects just the total feel of the bike on the track.
It took me a few times actually to get used to that green map once
it's rowdy.
Yeah, riding that regular 80% map, it almost feels just like a strong 250 two-stroke. And then when you bump into that green map, when you fully open the power valve, it really feels like a real 300.
Yeah, it goes from tractor to spinning the rear tire whenever it wants to. And if you're not as skilled at riding two-strokes like me on a motocross track, you really appreciate that white map where it will slow down and just give you almost a cheating, torquey 300, almost a four-stroke feel. It's really...
Yeah, and while both of these bikes are two-strokes, they're probably the most four-stroke-like.
Absolutely.
In terms of being a two-stroke. There's not a 125. Absolutely. It's not where you have to be real pipey. You can you could probably be the laziest on a two-stroke on these two bikes.
Yes. These are two-strokes for lazy people.
Which is why Jesse's here.
Which is why I'm
part of this test.
I love it. On the track, we got to get into this. We got to talk about the big differences. I think power difference, they're very comparable on power output, speed, but character is quite a bit different.
And how you get there.
Yeah. And the Beta is really delivering old school, carbureted, really high impact power from a two-stroke. It's giving a punch, a growl that's really connected to the throttle still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
analog.
I think even in the sounds of it, 300 sounds raspy. The Beta sounds real strong, where the KTM does as well. But I think the Beta has more of an edge in that, just that it's an old school carburetor.
Yeah, we had people come up to us at the track multiple times saying that Beta sounds so good on the track.
Yeah, well, that's because I was riding.
You were right. but they're right. It does sound amazing. It's a great sounding bike, and the power delivery really mimics that sound. It's delivering power as it sounds.
Yeah, when you ride that bike, sometimes you can't tell how good a bike sounds when you're on it riding it, but on the Beta you can hear, know how good that thing sounds.
Yeah, it sounds good and it's running well. The KTM, on the other hand, is first year TBI. It's a long ways from TPI, transfer port injection, of the XC lines and the XCW lines, which were and still are really manageable power. Not exciting, but they do rip on the top end. They just don't deliver a lot of snap or a lot of excitement to get there.
Which is good for the enduro side of things and riding slow and getting through that crawlability that tractors up those hills.
Yep.
But on a motocross bike, you wouldn't want that.
Not as much. I mean, I personally could have it on a motocross bike and it wouldn't bother me because I'm only going to be out of control in the other realm of two strokes anyway. So I could ride a TPI on a motocross track and be pretty efficient and be pretty competitive at my skill level. But the TBI gets you closer to that old school hard hitting carbureted format.
Very close. Yeah, it's very similar. I do notice a tiny bit of pinging on the very top when you're coming down the hill and you're maybe in too low of a gear and you're trying to rev that gear out a little bit longer. The Beta with the carburetor doesn't really have that feeling. It's still crispy and responsive on the over rev, where I think the TBI kind of lacks a little bit there.
Yeah, it's not as crisp, I would say, but it is cleaner. It's going to work different elevations. It's going to work different temperatures. It's going to work at a track in San Diego or at Mammoth.
That's the one thing that I would really note the KTM here. The Beta to me was more fun to ride as far as engine goes in that aspect, and taking that thing wherever you want to go, any track, any elevation, any temperature, and it's going to be very similar. That's a huge plus for me.
Yeah, KTM's tip of the spear in tech and two-stroke injection technology. It's going to get better. It has an electronic power valve, which I think is going to be even a bigger story than the throttle body injector in the long term. you're going to be able to tune the power valve independently from fueling and deliver any combination of power delivery you want out of this bike in the future. Right now, as it comes stock with those 2 maps, kind of gives you everything you need.
Worth noting on the Beta too, it does have an adjustable power valve. We didn't mess too much with that because it was so fun to ride that hard hitting map.
Yeah.
But I think guys who want to tone that down maybe a little bit have that option, where on the KTM you kind of have only the 2 and it's kind of adjusted the way it is.
Yep, for sure. There's definitely more tunability into the Beta, which is a positive, but it's also a negative because you can get kind of turned around. You can get chasing settings. You can want to go back to the begining. And with the KTM, you don't really have to do that. You just jump on and ride it.
Yeah, I would say the KTM to be able to just jump on and ride. Anybody can jump on and ride it. I think it's so easy across the board.
Yeah, both of them have great throttle response. Both of them are delivering power really efficiently. They sound great. Neither one of them do anything strange of bogs or hiccups or anything like that in them. They're running really strong. So honestly, it's just kind of pick your taste at this point.
Yeah, if you're
engine and power output.
If you're an old school guy and you love that carbureted feel and you love that raspy hit of it, you're really going to like the Beta. But if you want kind of that new school tech, don't want to touch the carb at all, want to just get on and ride, the KTM's probably the bike you're going to look for.
Definitely. I agree.
A couple other things. They both have hydraulic clutch, electronic start, steel frames. So they're very comparable in that sense. Another big difference that's probably the biggest thing we could talk about is the suspension settings. So
yeah, suspension and chassis feel. Yeah. Suspension settings for sure. Spec components, spec spring rates, valving, that kind of stuff. And then overall chassis geometry, sort of how it behaves, is really the difference between these 2 bikes.
Yeah, so the KTM is actually a little bit taller in both ground clearance and seat height. But if we didn't know those specs, I would have said the KTM is lower than the Beta.
Yeah, the KTM just basically comes across as a more stable platform everywhere except for the tightest of turns.
Yeah.
At the tightest of turns, the KTM starts to feel a little longer and a little taller and a little more lazy in the corners than the opposite end of that spectrum, the scalpel, which is the Beta.
And what's funny is the Beta, when you sit on it, it kind of looks and feels wide. Yeah. But when you ride it, I didn't really feel that.
No, you'll feel the shrouds because the tank and shroud area is a little different than Japanese or even the current Austrian bikes. But really, the bike is just nimble and built for short tracks. It's built for dominating enduro, as it feels like. It feels like it's a grass track, flat tracking / I'm going to point my front end into some trees and go exactly where that front end goes.
Yeah, you can really feel the enduro heritage when you take this thing out on a motocross track. Especially, I've ridden it at a couple different tracks now, tighter layouts, faster layouts, and those tighter layouts, it actually works really well.
Yeah, it'll dice through corners. Like, it is front end biased. It points wherever you point the front end, it goes. And the KTM is more, say, relaxed in its handling. It's more controlled over most bumps, high speed stuff. It's way more comfortable, way more relaxed of a chassis. And, it likes to steer a little bit more mid bike or even towards the rear.
Like leaning rather than actually steering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. The Beta also has KYB suspension. And even though they said that this comes with stiffer settings than the normal enduro stuff, it's just really soft.
It is quite a bit softer than the KTM in comparison.
And I think that would just go back to the KTM having so much time with motocross, supercross testing that they're just going to already spec with stiffer settings standard than Beta might.
Yeah, for sure. I think Beta will continue to revise their motocross platform as they get more motocross bikes in their lineup. KTM has so many bikes in its catalog of motocross models from 85, 65 cc's all the way up to 450s. And they've had them for years, and they've had this suspension componentry, that they have a ton of specs and they know how to dial this bike in. And they're just ahead of the curve.
So many data points that they can use that Beta just wouldn't have by not having a big motocross presence.
Right. And when we say soft, it's more like it's just feels like an XC line from a KTM more than the SX line. That's the best I can describe it to people that are familiar with that. It's like it has the same potential. It's just got a lighter setting inside of it.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like it could be a really good XC bike or Grand Prix bike.
Yep.
Especially with that 6th gear. I would love to race this bike in an off-road race just because it is a little softer and it has that 6th gear. I wouldn't take the 300 SX. I would take the RX.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think overall, we didn't really dislike anything about either of the bikes. I was really impressed with both of them. I could see myself owning either one. If I was looking for an XC style bike, Beta has the RR, 300 RRs, which are what most open course people would race, or even their enduro team is racing on. Those are great bikes for off-road. This thing off-road, probably too stiff. So, it's probably just not quite stiff enough for hitting those big bumps at Glen Helen that we were doing.
Yeah, I think if you want maybe the best looking bike and the most unique, but you still want that kind of old school hit of a carb and the way a classic two-stroke feels, then you're going to steer towards the Beta. But if you want kind of that new school, user-friendly, anybody can jump on it, it's got all the new parts, like it's just a standard KTM, then that's what I would go with. Yeah,
you're not going to go wrong. KTM dealership network, KTM's part supply, even though all part supplies are limited still, and they're still struggling with that, you're always going to be able to find a dealership somewhere that can help you with a KTM 300SX for sure. And a Beta, yeah, there's lots of dealers out there. Their dealer network is very passionate and strong. We obviously had a great time riding these bikes.
Yeah, it's so fun to be riding two-stroke again. I have spent a lot of time away from riding two-strokes, but...
Yeah, I think everybody has. I think everybody started on two-strokes. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people started riding two-strokes, and, they probably are wondering what they're like now that they've been on a four-stroke for so long, and I can tell you that they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, and most of these bikes, or both of these bikes, are able to race most 450 classes, an open class, two-stroke only class. So that's a big, the two-stroke market is alive and well for sure. So yeah, there I wouldn't say there is a clear winner. I'd probably take the KTM as a little bit slightly edge over the Beta, just an overall off the showroom and go ride and race. But both bikes are super close, super competitive, and just an absolute blast to ride.
I'd agree with you. The KTM is ready for vet guys like me. It could be a young upcoming pro can get on this bike and be competitive. Riders can get on the KTM right now and be ultra competitive in actual motocross competition. The Beta is going to take a little work for somebody who's 150 pounds or heavier to get competitive just because of suspension softness. Yeah. We ended up stiffing it up a lot with just clickers, and it made it to the point where it was comfortably rideable, but still we were limiting by that a little bit. So
that was definitely the limiting factor.
Yeah, it's the only thing I would consider a negative in my overall ranking would be like, you're going to have to do some suspension work on the Beta to get it to be competitive and comfortable for somebody like me who's 185 pounds.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. This has been a super fun video. Can't wait to bring you some more. As always, you can check out the Cycling News magazine where you can find a full write-up, spec sheet, and photos from this test. Those are available for free at cyclingnews.com every Monday night. Till next time, keep burning some premix, guys. We'll catch you out there on the track.
Mix the gas and haul the ass. That's all you got to do, people. It's easy. It's a simple formula. It's not algebra.
You got it, guys. See ya. Thanks for watching.